Well, my name is Brian Train. I live in Victoria, British Columbia. I'm a freelance game designer. I've been designing games since about 1991, and I've been playing them since about 1979. I published, I guess, if you include self-publishing, I put out somewhere between 60 and 70 different designs. A lot of my work deals with irregular warfare. My basic interests are irregular warfare, political military games, and games that have some element of asymmetry in them. I really like asymmetry in design because, of course, real life is very, very asymmetric. There's so many different ways in which where you can have an asymmetric matchup. Any battle in history, obviously, is going to be heavily asymmetrical. One side or the other is going to have some kind of superiority in resources, in position, in tactics, all these kinds of things. I really like simple, abstract games. I was speaking to the design group earlier about the value and the cognitive and logic skills, thinking skills that are developed by studying and playing simple abstract games. There are some abstract games that are very symmetrical, like chess, for example, or checkers. Everybody starts in the same position on a small board with the same pieces. But the more interesting games to me are ones that start off and have asymmetry built into them. Even Go, which you would think of as being a symmetrical game because both sides have different pieces and a blank board to begin with. You can handicap one player or the other by placing, certain stones on the board. So taking it from a symmetrical game into an asymmetrical design, which is good because chess, for example, you cannot handicap it that way because you're essentially changing the nature of the game. But with Go, you can. There are some other games, though, that are asymmetric from their very structure. One I really enjoy is one called Hnefatafl, which is sometimes it's called the Viking game, where a small force is trying to escort their king to one edge of the board while there's a larger number of people trying to block him. Personally, my favorite design that I've done is also my simplest design. I call it Guerrilla Checkers. It's a mashup of checkers and Go, where you have two different sides that are playing on the same board, but one side has 6 pieces that begin the game and play the game that way. Then the other one has 66 pieces, and you add 2 of them to the board at each time, and then you go play through. But both sides are trying to eliminate the other piece by piece, but they do so by completely different rules. I was inspired to do this game a few years ago when I was working with some people on a game about Afghanistan, and I was lying in the middle of the night looking at the ceiling the way a lot of middle-aged men do, and instead of thinking about what a bad man I am and all the mistakes I've made in life, I started thinking about Afghanistan and how there you have two forces that are occupying the same real estate at the same time, but one of them is fighting for ground and position and location. The other one is fighting for people, and that's the basic mismatch. So you need an abstract game where, those two combine. One side tries to neutralize the other, but they do so by completely different rules. One topic that I've been working on a lot lately is urban warfare. I think it's a particularly urgent topic because of the ongoing urbanization that was going on in the world even before climate change became more and more of a motivator to bring more and more people into the cities across the world, which of course are growing and of course are crumbling. Their infrastructure is crumbling and because they're simply not prepared to deal with this kind of thing. And the growing kinds of conflicts that will be fought within those cities. And I think that they're largely going to be irregular ones. It's a very, very thorny problem. And for the last couple of years, I've been designing a clutch of games that have to do with urban warfare. The real world example is I've been helping the U.S. Army National Guard, California Army National Guard, on their Urban Operations Planners course, which is a week-long course where these brigade and division staff officers come and they learn for about a week about how complicated and difficult the urban environment is. And on the last day of the course, they play a war game that I've designed for them that puts them in downtown Manila, one of the most densely populated places in the world. As far as this particular day goes, we were involved in a rapid game design event, just people coming together, thinking about how to focus yourself, how to focus your game on a particular theme. And we've been learning about how the different mechanics supply meaning to that theme and how they push that theme forward. That's basic to all game design, no matter where you're setting. I find the idea of hidden intelligence in games really interesting. That's a really basic asymmetry. and it's especially endemic to irregular warfare. So I found this event interesting in 3 or 4 different dimensions for me, which is great. Probably the most interesting thing to me is the asymmetry that's born out of a lot of irregular warfare, where one side, the insurgent, for want of a better term, has a lot of intelligence, but not much raw power. And meanwhile, the state, or counterinsurgent, if you will, has a lot of power, but they don't necessarily know where and how to use it without having things backfire on them. And that sort of basic dilemma, I think, is interesting, and it's something that games can explore.